So we should make the most of that. Yeah,
sure.
I just need to serve the white. Yeah.
And everything is finished. How was the harvest, Olivier, this year?
This year, a bit like last year, it very dry, very sunny, very hot. So the kind of vintage Bordeaux people like, because it's very ripe, colored. But personally, I'm not very fond of this kind of wine, So with this type of climate, you have two choices. Either you harvest very early to get to keep acidity, to keep freshness in your future wine, or you can, like we did, harvest very lately, waiting for rain and for dilution of the too much concentrated grapes. And that's what we did. We harvest in October, from early October to mid-October, to get grapes finally more balanced than mid-September. Mid-September it was really it was a kind of alert, because very dry. The vineyards was suffering a lot, the grapes too, and very high in alcohol. So okay, we always know it was the same in 2003, my first vintage. I have harvested in from mid-October to early November. This year it was mid-October, or 1st of October until mid-October. Okay. To get something more balanced, more not normal, but yes, balanced. That means not too high in alcohol, acidity raised, strangely, because normally acidity stops. But as the phenomenon of ripeness starts again, even the acidity, we can see an evolution on the acidity, on the better acidity of the wine. So,
can I ask, Olivier, you said that there was some in September that saw it was very dry, and so they harvested early so as not to have high alcohol, but you left the grapes on the vine for longer, which gives more sunshine, more sugar, which will result in higher alcohol. So how was it a compromise, a playoff between equilibrium, so the phenolic ripeness, the physiological ripeness of the pip, and the acidity? Is that what you did? Did you accept slightly higher alcohol?
We get some rain, so the rain brings everything, restart the ripeness, and also dilute the sugar in the grape. So instead of harvesting in September at 16 degrees of alcohol, we have harvested less than 14,
Okay.
After maybe 1 week of rain, the water raised in the grape, so in the berries, and with the new balance.
Yeah, but that's you had to take a decision, and that's a massive risk, because you didn't know that the rain was. You can't accept that the rain was going to come, did you?
Yeah. It's a big question. Sometimes also you need to observe the vineyards, and sometimes you need to harvest because it's suffering too much. So it depends on each parcels, on each person, people. I like taking a bit of risk, not too much, but okay, I'm in a position to because I decide. I have nobody above me to report, so I'm okay with me. It's easier for me than if for big classified who need to report to and then to the people who hold the money. So so it's a question of observation and risk. Yeah.
Thank you.
You hear me well? That's okay?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, great. Cool. Well, let's kick off there properly. I'm sorry for a couple of minutes delay starting. We had a fractious conversation in French just before you all came on to try and get Olivier's sound to work. But thankfully, just in time, we got that working. That was never in doubt, as they say. But yeah.
It's not in French, you see.
Everyone's very welcome tonight. It's always really exciting to introduce a new winemaker to Angels, and Olivier is no exception. Ray and I, as you mentioned earlier, one of our last trips together, Ray, almost a year ago now, last December, went out to France on a tip-off from Ben Darnaud, and it's one of the greatest assets of Naked is the winemaker network, and how people are just happy to introduce us to fellow winemakers. Ben described Olivier as a winemaker who's breaking the rules in Bordeaux and really doing things his own way. And immediately I was interested and sent over some samples. We loved them, so we said, right, let's go over for a visit. So tonight we're going to get to know Olivier. We're going to taste his wines together, and I think a lot of people tuning in tonight might have a couple of Olivier's new wines. I know Ray has them, and Olivier has as well. So we'll be sure to taste them together. If anyone's got any questions for Olivier, just let us know in the Q&A, and we'll get to them in the second half. Or else, if you're on Facebook as well, let us know in the comments, and we'll get those questions across. So let's kick off then, Olivier, and take us back to the start. How did the interest in wine start?
It's a long time ago, because today I'm 56 years old, and it starts at 17 years old. I'm born in the region, in the area, but not in the wine. No relation with the wine, My parents did something else, and my grandparents too. But I was in the area, so I've got many friends whose parents were growing vines and wine. So we made a lot of harvest, and then the harvest party, and that's where in one party, when I was maybe too drunk, I discovered wine. Because before I was used to drink a lot, but in that particular party, I discovered all the potential in a bottle of wine, all the pleasure that could give to you, and the many sensorial emotions. Maybe I was too drunk, but anyway, the result is that it started my passion for the wine. So at this time, I started alone to learn about wine, to taste as more as I can, and I succeeded in convincing my father to love wine too. So we were two, and he's got the money because I was 17 only. So we have bought a lot of bottles and discovered together, and then this passion grew until 40 years old, where I started to make wine. But before this age, I was working already in the wine.
Okay.
It's my passion. So. And
you're based in Bordeaux. Whereabouts there?
My place in Bordeaux is very close to Saint-Emilion, which is in the right bank of Bordeaux region, along the Dordogne River. So our place is quite a nice traditional house in the region, just along the river, the Dordogne River, and surrounded by vineyards. It's quite enjoyable place.
We went to visit, and it was very beautiful, very down to earth and humble, and in the best possible way. Yeah.
But actually, do you remember, Eamon, we were standing on the banks of the Dordogne, December 19th or 18th, and Olivier started talking to us about how he surfs down the Dordogne, and you're looking at a river that is it 50 meters across, perhaps, or
the wave?
Yeah, the distance. The width.
Of the sea. Yeah, it's 50.
Not from the sea, from your side to the other side. It's a wide river, but it's not very wide. Maybe 50 meters.
Yeah, 200 meters. 200 meters.
Oh, the other side. Okay, I'm totally way off. But you actually, when the current is right and when the wind is right, you surf from your front door down the river. So how does that work? I mean, is there actual wave, or is it current, or is there eddies where they swirl and it gives you
the moment between the how can you say marée, tide?
Tide, yeah.
the tide? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a moment when the tide is changing, you know,
Okay. Yes.
because there is a natural way to go down to the sea, but the sea, Atlantic Ocean, has tide too. So when it's raising up, it brings a wave, and we are at 50 kilometers from the sea, you know, through the river, more than 50. And even at this distance, we have the wave. So it's a fantastic phenomenon that we can surf it.
Wow.
And it's my spot. It's very cool. Sometimes you have when you have big waves, because it's not every day, of course. It's with big tide. But there are some people coming also. So it's a good time, yeah.
Wow, riptide, exactly. As many people in the chat room, there are people talking on the sidebar here, and thank you, like the Severn people have been contributing. But yeah, fantastic. I mean, it's just this other. When Eamon and I were lucky enough to visit you, we go there to taste wine, talk wine, decide wine, and then it just so happens you're surrounded by all these other very cool things on your front door. And Eamon, I'm sure you'll touch on the markets and other things, but. Yeah, that was cool. It really caught my interest.
Thank you. Thank you.
And when did you buy this place? I gather wasn't maybe the best time conventionally to make an investment like that.
We bought in 2003. You know, with my wife, we have started a new life because we married. We married this year, and she was pregnant too. So it was a big year. And we have bought the vineyards. I remember we get it in March, and the vineyards was not pruned, you know. So I spent maybe 10, 11 hours per day, you know, to prune the vineyard, sorry. And also I've got some courses because I come back to school, you know, to learn how to prune the vineyard, how to manage a vineyard, and it was very busy time. But it was okay. When you start something new, it's fantastic.
You have passion, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we try the white wine together first? And yeah, I'm not sure if you have a sample of it, Olivier. I think you sent it all to us, but. Ray's got one there. Maybe Ray, why don't you talk us through the wine and what you taste and what you see in it, and Olivier can tell us a bit more about it as well.
Yeah, with pleasure. Yeah, I'll describe what I'm detecting, and then Olivier, you can sort of support why that might be the case. So it is. Perhaps just tell us, Olivier, the blend. Is it Sauvignon, Semillon,
Sauvignon, because there is more Semillon than Sauvignon.
Semillon et Sauvignon, which is the traditional or typical Bordeaux blend. Occasionally, you might have Muscadel as well. Yeah. Here there's no Muscadel?
No. But normally, the traditional blend is Sauvignon, Semillon. That means more Sauvignon than Semillon.
Yeah.
Here is a changing bit.
And what would you say, and then I'll see if I can detect it, but what does Semillon in Bordeaux versus other areas but bring to a blend? And Sauvignon, well, I think a lot of people are familiar with Sauvignon Blanc, and but in Semillon, just to have more Semillon, what would we expect to see?
Traditionally, Semillon is not very appreciated because people think that it's less aromatic than Sauvignon. It's bringing the blend. It's bringing a lot of roundness, you know, volume and roundness. Sauvignon is bringing acidity, perfumes, you know, primary perfumes. But now we know better that Semillon on some soils, particular soils, is very expressive, very interesting. And when it's a bit ripe, when you harvest it riper than normally, more than traditionally, you get some aromas, you know. So okay, as you know that you have Sauvignon, you can go riper because it will be balanced by the Sauvignon. And with that explanation, the blend made here is very balanced because you have two expressions, the one from Sauvignon, but also the one from Semillon, which is longer in mouth, and of course roundness, volume, something very smooth coming from Semillon. But you get also some minerality, very interesting, and according to me, it's coming from Semillon, more than Sauvignon.
Yeah, well, I opened this a little earlier, about an hour ago or so, and I thought, without remembering, or I should have known, that it was more Semillon than Sauvignon, I thought, yeah, it's a bit grassy, which is and in a positive sense, it would show the Sauvignon expression, but it had this sort of ripe, earlier it looked like ripe melon, and now it looks more like mango, and it's beautiful. Like, it has such an aromatic expression. It's really nice. And then if people are tasting it at home, or they can watch back again, when you put it in the palate, it is coating. So it has the freshness and the vivacity and vibrancy of a Sauvignon Blanc, or say the citrus character of whether it's Sauvignon Blanc characteristics like gooseberry, or the mango that I mentioned, which still has an acid line, but it has a tropical and it has greater breadth. It's more indulgent. And when, this is what Eamon and I, or maybe I just bent Eamon's ear, I kept talking to Eamon about how white Bordeaux could be or should be, or rather we would have seen a lot of white Bordeaux over the years and years we've worked together, and we went, oh, it's okay. But when we tasted this, it reminded me of, genuinely, of Pessac-Logan, Pape Clément, Château de Lafite, like those wines that they just give a coating on the palate. Ça donne un peu plus sur la palette, you know, and a rondeur comme ça. And it's and with this wine, at incredible value, gives that. So it's a step outside of your straight Sauvignon Blanc, Loire, New Zealand, and then, but it gives an extra sort of little bit of plush or premium. So it's infallible in a sense, because it gives a lot of things, but it's reliably recognizable, if that makes sense. Yeah. And that concludes that tasting note.
Thank you. And Olivier, how's the experience of Naked Wines been so far for you?
Wow, it's interesting, because my first impression with Naked Wine was you both, you know, Ray and Eamon, because you come and visit our place, and it was a kind of investigation. You know, you were very curious. We have tasted many wines. We have learned to meet each other. So it was maybe the first time, you know, that I have such a relationship with an import company, because first you were, for me, import company, that's normal, export company or import. But you go further, you know, you take time to first to prepare the meeting, then to come and to meet, to stay, to have a dinner. So that's very important for me. That was quite new.
That wasn't hard on our part. We're only too happy to turn up and eat delicious food. And
yes, maybe the dinner. No, but that's important. That was the first impression. Then that's where we are now. After exporting the wine, there are a lot of people very interested, very implicated. I don't know the word. Implicated, very involved in the wine story, in my story too. So, and I realize now that that's the link, because you spend time to know me, the customer are interested in that, and they want to know more, and they are involved in the the parties. You know, so that's very interesting. That's new for me, and I like it. It's good. It's very good.
That's great.
That's my impression with Naked.
Yeah.
So very different from us.
So you know what we liked about you, Olivier, is you seem different as well. And you know, what would you do typically different as a winemaker in Bordeaux with your grapes and your vineyards versus maybe the traditional kind of Bordeaux winemakers?
What makes me different? That's the question. I follow my I have no history. You know, my family is not in the wine industry or production, so I do it with passion. So I follow my instinct. It's I follow my ideas, my dreams, many things. Sometimes one night I have an idea. Very often it's during the night because I don't sleep very well. So if I remember the idea, I have many ideas during the night. If I remember it, maybe it's a good idea. So I try it. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's not interested. So I give up. It depends. But I follow. I have no pressure from anybody, and I just hope that some people will like my wines. And for now, it's okay. It's working. It's working well. So I just try to be not to be creative. Maybe I am creative. You know, it's not a strategy. I will get bored very easily if I do the same every vintage. You know, so my idea is to create new cuvée. You have discovered, you know, this new one, but very to change and to try many things, because the wine is very rich. It has a long history, and this history is made of many different innovations. So okay, I try to bring my stone in that story.
Very good. So why don't we now move on to the red?
Yeah.
So maybe again, could you explain the grapes in it, Olivier, and you know, so the background behind it?
The red is more traditional because it's for the right bank, because it's a Merlot grape mainly, and there is some Cabernet, a small proportion, maybe I don't have maybe 20-25%. Cabernet Franc.
Sorry, Olivier, could you come closer to the computer? Just a couple of people want to hear you better. Sorry.
Okay. Is it okay now? Yeah, it's better.
Go with that, yeah.
So this is dominantly Merlot grape, but what is interesting in this red is a blend of two very different soils, you know, climate, which is finally very rare in Bordeaux, because one chateau, there is no winery like in many other countries where you can pick grapes from different terroirs. Normally, a chateau has one terroir, maybe two, you know, but generally they don't have gravels and gravel.
Yeah,
and,
gravel.
And limestone, you know. So because they are normally they are not in the same geographical point. So that's interesting in this blend, because you have the two terroirs in the bottle, and that makes also a very balanced wine, because the Merlot from limestone will be very structured, you know, and ripe and solid, but gravels will bring freshness, will bring something more delicate, something more interesting for me. But alone, it can be difficult to taste, you know, it can be too sharp maybe. But with this blend, with the other terroir, that's interesting.
And Olivier, I mean, Bordeaux is probably, you know, well, it is known for its blends. It's typically, whether it's left bank of the river or right bank of the river, left bank of the river, maybe more Cabernet Sauvignon, but it still has Merlot and a bit of Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc. And on the right bank, maybe more Merlot and supported by Cabernet Franc. So just if you could share with everyone the importance of a blend, because you know, maybe outside of Bordeaux, people are familiar with seeing a label from Australia and it says Shiraz on the label or Syrah. Yeah. And also in Australia, they'll see Cabernet Sauvignon, or in Chile, Cabernet Sauvignon. But can you just explain the art and the benefits of a blend? And already, I think you were just talking about Merlot, one grape, from two different soils. So having explained that, and you've explained that Merlot on limestone is tighter, more linear. Merlot, same grape on a different soil from a, you know, across the river, across the road, it will give a little bit more freshness, more open. So you put it together like cooking to sort of make it all a little bit more approachable. But in general, Bordeaux, if you could share with people the art of blending and what it requires. How do you approach a blend?
I think the art of blending in Bordeaux comes from our terroir, our climate. You know, we have not every vintage a very sunny, dry, ripe vintage. Okay, that's sure. We have very what we call poor vintage with a lack of ripeness and so on. So we cannot compare with the same grape with Australia, with even Spain or I don't know where, anywhere, New Zealand and so on. So so we have created the art of blending because every vintage, one grape or one terroir will have a better success than the other. Okay, so it will be the main, the base of the blend, and then we will add Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, but sometimes it's a Cabernet who is leading, you know, more rarely. But so it will we will play to get the best wine and also to get the typicity. So we will not forget the Cabernet, but we will reduce the amount, the percentage. It comes from our very different climate, every vintage, every year. Like in Burgundy, but in Burgundy they have only Pinot for the red. Yeah. So it's another challenge. But we have the same very flexible, variable climate. You know, we cannot be like in Argentina, like in Chile, like in Australia, with very ripe every vintage. It's ripe, you know. So it's interesting because we have to play with that.
Yeah, it sounds like you are trying to be well, you are so your approach is to be in harmony with what the elements that nature gives you that year, and then still trying to reflect on the left bank, whether it's Margaux, Pauillac, Saint Estèphe, some level of typicity and always quality. But let's say Mother Nature doesn't guarantee you quality, and so that you have to work away. That is the human intervention. That little bit of human intervention in nature is pulling the best bits together because, yeah, just to get equilibrium in the end.
Yeah. Maybe that's my personal point of view, but I follow it. You know, in 19 and 20 vintage, I have harvested very late, okay, to get something more balanced. But in the same time, I have bottled my wine very soon, okay, to keep this freshness. You know, all my 19 vintage, except maybe Pomerol, yeah, for sure, Pomerol, and another cuvée of Montagne. But all the other wines, that means the main part is already bottled, okay, to keep fresh. But some 18 and 16 vintage are still aging, you know. So I have no procedures, you know. I have no cahier des charges. I don't know the word in English.
Yeah.
So I just follow the nature exactly. I follow what I've been given, and I try to adapt to make the best.
Great.
Thank you.
So right, the crowd are begging for your thoughts on the wine. Tell us what you're seeing in it. Right.
Sorry,
Olivier or me?
Ray.
Ray. Okay, Ray say. I think it is. Well, fortunately, it has stood up to what Eamon, you and I were led to believe when Benjamin Darnaud gave us the tip off about Olivier, that this is Bordeaux, but not as you know it, and I think what it has is it has a generosity, a voluminous, like a roundness in the palate. It has a light, you know, green herbaceous slant, which in my opinion just gives freshness. And actually it is the Bordelais, or the European, the French equivalent of Cabernet Sauvignon. Well, this is Merlot, but of wines of like where we look in Chile and you get, or Australia, you have this eucalypt or cassis character, and people have fallen in love with that dark fruit eucalypt. And here we're in Bordeaux, and you know you're in Bordeaux, but what it doesn't have is, importantly, I really find it's very important, is challenging tannins or challenging dryness. So it's not austere. It's not at all a challenge. It is smooth, you know, viscous is the wrong word. It's sort of voluminous, it's round, and it goes over the palate easy. So that's it. It's soft, ripe, smooth, red fruits, a little bit of a herbaceous lilt, which points to its origin of Bordeaux, and very dangerously easy drinking. But actually, Olivier, I just ask you that. So this wine is organic, biologique, and the white is not. But so you've followed organic on this wine, and do you believe that has contributed to how might that have contributed to the quality or the balance or the smoothness?
It's a big question. Even if it doesn't contribute, it contributes to nature, to a better environment. So that's okay. Maybe generally, organic wines, organic reds are a little bit fresher than conventional. You know, they have a bit more of freshness, of acidity, of something awakening your palate.
Yeah.
And personally, that's what I like. You know, I'm completely obsessed by the tannins and by the purity of the fruit. You know, by
purity of the fruit.
Sincerity of the fruit.
Yeah, I sense it. I really do. It has an energy, maybe. And we're allowed to run away with ourselves. It's 8:30 on a Tuesday night. We're allowed to sort of go a little bit nuts. But it has an energy. But and it's certified. But yeah, it's really good. It's really good quality. Really lovely.
Olivia, we've got a question from Helen on Facebook. Like what food goes well with this? So in Bordeaux, on a Saturday or Sunday when you're pulling out this wine, what meal would you cook in that lovely kitchen of yours to go with this wine?
With this wine, okay, in very traditionally the weekend, in Sunday, we like cooking a chicken or duck or pintade, you know, something like that. That means white meat, only roasted, and that's perfect for this kind of meal.
Okay.
You know,
that's
the best for me. That's the best. Something just plancha or roasted, white meat, and also if it's red meat, not too strong, not too tasty.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, because the wine is not too powerful, you know. So we need something more delicate.
Very good. Okay, cool. So we'll break there and go over to Ray for your empty slot. And again, if anyone's got any questions for Olivier, we'll get to as many as possible. Pop them in the Q&A underneath the screen. Ray, over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eamon. So as we have always been doing in lockdown, and whether we're fully there or not. Originally, I would receive a lot of wine samples to my place because I haven't been traveling to Olivier, or haven't been to the office where a lot of them come in. So the wines come to my place. I open them, taste them, and then get back to the winemaker. So this is a summary of what I've tasted and what's coming your way shortly. Two beautiful wines from Villebois, very early, so the 2020 vintage. So Olivier, you would have picked your grapes in as you said, October for the reds. In the Loire, I think they started late August, early September, and already we have Villebois Chenin Blanc 2020. It says tank sample, so I'm tasting it before it's been put into bottle, and honestly, it tastes better than the previous vintage. And what we have to be careful of is not jumping in too soon, because some wines, you need to leave them rest a bit. You need to leave them on what you call the fine lees, which is the little bits left over after the fermentation, and it just homogenizes the wine. And so you don't want to be just going, okay, 2020, let's go. Actually, 2020, let's get the hell out of 2020, really. But this wine, it's already looking beautiful texture. So the Chenin Blanc from Villebois, delicious. Also the rosé, Pinot Noir rosé, which I think last year was the first year we launched that, and it was a massive hit. And again, I think what they have nailed is texture, mouthfeel, and that is a real art, I feel, to be able to give that and balance. Furthermore, Chenin Blanc, you see how the labels vary from France to South Africa. So this is Bruvert Rats, is Bush Vine Chenin Blanc 2020. So South Africa harvested in February or March 2020, Southern Hemisphere. Their harvest is before Europe's. And so this is a Chenin Blanc, but it has been resting on lees, but in barrel as well. So it's let's say a Grand Vin, a higher end Bush Vine wine. And God, it's like tasting something from Burgundy. And it's the reason I say that is as a almondy, nutty, and then the oak spice character. So it's really, really premium character on that. Then also from Bruvert, his Silver Hope Cabernet Franc, as you will well, you'll love, I'm sure, Olivier, but his Cabernet Franc from South Africa. There are not many people in South Africa that are growing Cabernet Franc, but Bruvert does it as a religion, and he is really one of the forefathers or the leaders in production of Cabernet Franc in South Africa. Again, gosh, this was not intended, but as I go through the varietals, this is a Petit Verdot from South Africa, another blending, a Bordeaux blending variety. This is from Richard Kershaw, looking smooth. This is actually quite a ripe, as you might, I wouldn't recognize it in Europe, Olivier. It is riper, juicier, darker fruit than we might usually see in Bordeaux with regards Petit Verdot. And also it's single variety, where you might use it as a blending component in Bordeaux. And then lastly, well, these two together, let me just show you. These are now live on the side. This is Katie Jones, Lagar, Syrah, and Carignan. They're live, I think they should be, and they are absolutely delicious, especially the Syrah. I think it's probably its best year. And this is my own stash and consumption. I'm not sure who at home has been who has received. This is from the Renan Boerman Bushclough case from the COVID Rescue Fund, but all of his wines are instantly gorgeous. So those that are left over, having fulfilled everyone's COVID Rescue Fund case, they'll be live on the site shortly. But Renan is king, and long live the king, Renan. Back to you, Eamon.
Very good, thank you, Ray. So let's get to a few questions. People, Chris, Shig, can they come visit you, Olivier? I think do you have a gîte going in normal times?
Yeah, we have two gîtes. Yeah, one for two for 4 people, and a small one for 2 people. I'm leaving the kid for 2.
And how do people book that if they want to visit you?
They can contact me, through you or through the website, Chateau de Belle. It's very easy, or even book, but it's better directly.
Perfect. We'll get someone to share that link with people watching.
Yeah.
Jane Foster asks, I understand the Bordeaux wine trade is very tightly controlled and protectionist. How have you managed to deal with that?
With the control of,
So I guess, yeah, more around the point, you're a bit of an outsider in the Bordeaux wine trade, given you don't have 7 generations of family in it.
yeah.
Négociant, courtier, comme ça.
Yeah, it's very, yeah, but if you stay small, you know, not too big, you can avoid all this system. It's very easy. It was pretty more difficult at the beginning because I was alone to make all the distribution and so on, and even to get the authorization to get Bordeaux on the bottle. You know, very often my wines were refused by the authority, INAO or this kind of organism, and but now they are more and more open to new wines. So I meet less problem than before. Before it was a nightmare. Every wine you need to submit to this organism, and maybe 60% of the wines were refused. Now it's okay. Now they ask me to to show the wines to people, to journalists, because it's a bit more modern or something like that. Bordeaux is trying to change its image, so they want to be more protective with environment. Maybe we have in Bordeaux the biggest percentage of newcomers in organic, you know, in organic viticulture. So it's good for that. And now the classified, the big chateau starts also to submit with EcoCert, with organic way. So it's changing a lot.
Great. A couple of questions around the temperature of the white, Olivier. So how chilled, you know, would you have it? Maybe you can give a specific degree, but also if you take it out of the fridge, you know, a certain time before you eat, or you know, how should people enjoy your white?
It depends. If it's cold outside, it's better to be not too cold inside. You know, so when it's very cold outside, the wine should be at maybe 12, 13. You know, not too cold. If it's very hot outside, okay, you can chill it because it will warm very rapidly. But generally, I don't like too chill whites. I like not chill, but cold wine, red wines. But for the white, strangely, I don't like them too chilled, between 12 and 14 degrees. You know,
they express.
Ray, what would you say to that?
Yeah, no, they express a lot more. I mean, it is like Chardonnay. Exactly at 14 degrees. Well, you know, not being specific, but it's not room temperature, but just not too cold. Basically, in general, as science, like it tightens it up. So basically, if on the odd occasion when we're not in lockdown and you've turned your back on naked and you've picked up a bottle from the corner shop on your way home and you've discovered it's disgusting, all I can do is say, okay, you are forgiven, and to help you get through this bottle, chill it down to hell, and then you can't taste the nasties. And so the cold takes impurities, but it takes flavor out of it as well. And if you if something's a bit challenging, you know, you chill it down. Rather, on the other side, if to let something come out and express itself, especially like your white, Olivier, which has the Semillon, the textural viscosity, you know, to let that come out, it should be out of the fridge for some time. And almost don't think of it as a white wine. Think of it as this sort of palate coater. Just think of it as like if you were drinking like Alsace Pinot Gris or something just a little bit different. Yeah. So
when the wine is okay, when the wine is balanced, normally you don't need to chill it because the acidity will bring the freshness that you need. You know. So yeah, normally it's okay. You don't need. Very often you chill some white too ripe, maybe not with enough acidity. These wines yes, you need to chill them. But many whites today, they have a good level of acidity, so don't need to chill too much. But the red, yes, we very often drink the red too high temperature.
Warm. Yeah.
Too warm.
Yeah.
Because we say in France, chambré. I don't know if the word exists in
Yes, so that's room temperature, chambre.
Yes, but it's not good room temperature because before it was 18 in the room. Now it's 22 Celsius, you know. So it's 22 it's too high for a red. So 18 is perfect. And 18 and less.
Yeah.
I will never say room temperature again. Good question here from David. When I started drinking Bordeaux many years ago, doesn't tell us how many, but that's fine. You wouldn't touch a wine unless it was at least 5 years old. Now we drink it very young. Why the change?
Because we changed the way of making the wine. That's very important. I said 2 minutes ago that I was upset by the tannins. During the vinification, during the fermentation and maceration, I'm very obsessed. I very often taste twice a day, you know, to see what we will do the day after or the afternoon. That's so important. And very often that may be the problem in Bordeaux. They follow rules, you know, and for every vintage. So for me it's stupid because they are very talented people. But anyway, you have a consultant and he gives the rules for the vintage, which will be the same as last year and the next year. I don't understand because they have all the people to do a good job, but they just follow stupid rules, not adapted very often to the vintage. So now we can change the way of making the wine, and so we can try the wine earlier. And be sure this wine will be good at least 10 years. I'm pretty sure of that because I have now the experience with my wines.
And Eamon, speaking of 10-year-old, we do have a 10-year-old wine on tasting.
I'm just going to go to that. So Olivier, one of the other passions when you're not making wine, it's hunting out, you know, special treats and gems from around the Bordeaux region. So Ray and I had the delightful pleasure of tasting through. Must have been, you very kindly laid on a big tasting of 60 odd wines for us that evening when we came over to visit, and we ended up with this one as our highlight, our pick of the bunch. Could you tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, that's my passion. So okay, for me, Bordeaux is very interesting for this kind of wine. There is no other regions, maybe in Burgundy, where you can find very interesting old wines and still fresh, still living a lot. And as it's a big region of production, you always find some producers who keep the wine for many years because sometimes they are forgotten or there is an heritage and so on. But you can find this kind of wine, and for me, it's gold mines. And Bordeaux is especially made for aged wines, you know. So even in not very famous appellation like Margaux or Pauillac, you can find very, very interesting wines like this one in 2010, which is a fantastic vintage, very ripe and also a good level of acidity for aging. And this one has been aged in barrels too, so it's good.
And Ray, what's your impression of this wine?
Yeah, I think it is like an absolute gem of a Bordeaux. It's Cadillac. It's fresh and it's approachable, but when you taste it, you know, you are tasting all the hallmarks, pencil shavings, all the things that you might find in a sort of like a old school wine writer tasting note. But it is, you know, red currant, cassis, pencil shaving, I'd say, freshness. The tannins are approachable, so it's prêt à boire, ready to drink, and it's really just a taste of, I think, what many people would mostly understand or expect, or expect from Bordeaux.
As a Bordeaux, yeah. for sure.
And it's just really good. And I would just say it's a find, because I said, Eamon, we tasted 60 or so bottles of wine. It was a privilege, but we did, not all of them delivered on the total satisfaction. It's about balance. There will be more tannin, there'll be more acid, there'll be more oak, there'll be more fruit.
Very often there is a default.
Yeah. And this one, we were fortunate enough. Again, Olivier, you said at the beginning, you were grateful that we came to see you, stay with you, but we were there to taste and work, and we just went through everything so that we could give Angels something that was spot on. And we were spoiled for choice thanks to your you did a lot of work in advance. I remember there was weeks where you were going around gathering these samples, so that was your contribution to the Angels. And Eamon and I just had to go in and go yay, nay, yes, no, and so this one's it's really delicious. I think, Eamon, it's going live, or it'll be on the site shortly enough.
The great news is we've managed to get a parcel for Angels, and it'll be live on the site in the next couple of weeks. And for me, certainly don't often have the occasion of tasting a beautifully aged Bordeaux like this. So really looking forward to people's sharing this with more Angels, and make sure you're following Olivier on the site to make sure you hear about it, because there isn't a huge amount to go around. And then, when we did that tasting, of course, we had a lovely dinner with Olivier and his wife, Anne. I think she made the nicest tarte aux pommes I've ever eaten. It looked amazing and tasted incredible. And we had many wines that night. And then the next morning, Olivier, you took us down to the local market in Libourne. And we had a French breakfast, Olivier style. Ray, do you want to remind us what that was?
It was too good to miss up, but there was oysters everywhere, and we just went. We just got straight stuck in 6 of those, 3 of those, and it was amazing just to be able to, you're standing on the street, December 18th, 19th, not as sort of entirely festive the way you see in the UK, where it's a bit overdone. It's just like it's another day in the market, and we got right stuck into the oysters, which were fantastic, but then into the market, and the market indoors, like over a cover, just went on and on. So you saw the most amazing cheese stall, and you're like, oh, can we stop here for a second? He goes, oh, no, keep going again. And then you saw this most amazing, whatever it was, different products. Another amazing cheese stall. No, keep going. And it was just anything. It was photographs. We were just like tourists. And so it was such a privilege and experience to be in there. Gosh, that was a good Christmas. I don't know about you, Eamon, but
sure was. Well, the oysters were good, and the oysters were cheap. I couldn't believe, how cheap they were. I was getting ready to whip out the company credit card, and it was like 6 for a tenner or something. So that was fine. And then, we stocked up at the stinky cheese stall, and I had not one but 2 flights to get home. I had to fly to Amsterdam and over then to Dublin. And as the day wore on, the night wore on, the cheese kind of warmed up as well. And I was keeping my distance. And this is before the days of social distancing. And I was very much social distancing on that trip, because anyone that came near me got a waft of some pretty ripe French cheeses. But I was very much the hero of Christmas in my family a few days later on Christmas Day. So that was very cool. And I'd encourage anyone who might make the trip down at some stage when things are back to normal to pop in and see Olivier, and maybe stay in the gîte and experience the local market. And like you say, Ray, it's effortless. It's just French life. It's just bustling. It's just normal for them. But for us, it was such a cool experience.
Yeah.
You're welcome for when you want, when it will be possible. And even for Angels who wants to visit our place, they are welcome.
Yeah. No, well, hopefully we head down, we'll get through this, and then we'll all be back out there, and vive la France, and appreciating good wine and good culture. Yeah, it was a real privilege. Thank you. But we have these 3 wines are in the UK, and I mean, they're shown beautifully tonight. Those who did the pre-order will have already received the white and the red, Le Bel Allure. And then this Chateau l'Essence is just a little sort of Christmas treat from what you have sourced, and should be on the site in a week or two, and you can add that. But it's, yeah, freshness and balance. And that's what you've managed to achieve in all of your wines, Olivier. Freshness, balance, and in the white, more texture and volume than one might expect. They will not be disappointed in those wines. They're lovely. They give a lot.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Very good. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you, Olivier, for your time tonight, and thanks everyone for joining us. If you're watching the election, hope you're well stocked. I certainly am. Going to be up late tonight, but it's been great. Catching up with you all, and we've got a good few events coming up before Christmas as well. So looking forward to sharing some more great wines and conversations with everyone. So thanks, Ray. Thanks, Olivier. And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Great to see you. Really good to see you, Olivier. Cheers, Emo. See you.
Bye. Cheers.